to another session in Visible Threads Optimize 25 virtual event. Really happy to have everyone here. For those of you who are just joining, welcome. It's one of our biggest virtual events of the year. For those who have been attending sessions today, really appreciate your time thus far. Hoping you're getting a lot out of it. So our session today is going to be, think of this as a panel kind of fireside chat discussion between myself and Karin Olson Held. She is the Director of Proposal Management and Sales Enablement at WPS. We're delighted to have her here. She has excellent insights on winning more business, bids and proposals, and kind of tying that to this topic. How can we tie technology, process, automation to improve, optimize, and speed up that all-important revenue-generating goal that I would imagine most people in the room have. So a couple just housekeeping notes before we dive right in. You will receive these slides, you will receive these recordings. If you have colleagues that registered and couldn't attend, they will also receive the slides and the recordings. You will see a chat box and a question and answer box. Feel free to use those early and often. Karin and I will take as many questions as we can throughout. I like to gauge the effectiveness of a seminar based on how many questions we get. So don't hesitate, throw those out. And then finally, you will all receive a survey after this session is done. We'd really appreciate your feedback in terms of what you thought went well. If you liked the format, if you want to see something different for next time, we take that feedback to heart and really use it to continuously improve these sessions. And big shout out to our marketing team. Karin and I just get to show up and chat. So let's dive in. There's no slides, believe it or not. We're just going to talk kind of the old-fashioned way. So I'd say before we dive in to kind of specifics, observations, pain points, all that good stuff, Karin, why don't you just set the stage, let people know who you are, what's your role at WPS, what does WPS do, just so they can understand your context before we dive in.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. I'm glad to be here chatting with you today. A little bit more about me and about WPS. So, as Kyle mentioned, I am Director of Proposal Management and Sales Enablement here at WPS. And in my role, I lead a team that does proposals across our 3 lines of business. But in addition to that, we support our sales CRMs and reporting, as well as other, I'll call them back office or internal facing activities, so that we can ensure our customer facing business development and sales leads get to spend as much time doing those external activities, having those conversations, those revenue generating activities as they can. So probably no surprise, I am a big fan of well-developed processes and having people in the right roles. So we're talking both people and processes, and then we need the tools to support. My background, I came to the world of proposals about 20 years ago as a writer. My background is in proposal writing, which led to proposal management, which led to love of processes, what can we do, industry best practice, and then to opportunities here at WPS. WPS is a health solutions company based in Madison, Wisconsin, and we provide health insurance and benefit plan administration to a variety of customers, from the federal government to local, state group plans. We provide insurance offerings from Medicare Supplement to individual group plans, as well as commercial data logistics. So our proposals really run the gamut from federal and SLED to, off the cuff, bespoke RFP responses. So we do a lot. And again, it all comes down to people, processes, and tools.
Well said, Karin. And that's why I think, to the audience, we have a great guest here. So really take advantage of that Q&A box, not only that tip of the spear proposal activity, but also kind of the infrastructure, the back end type stuff. So important and so relevant to organizations large and small. So Karin, let's dive in here. Before I like to talk about innovation, improvement, automation, I like to scare people just a bit. So, maybe outline some common challenges, points of friction, causes of heartache that you've encountered in your travels that would require some degree of process optimization, tool optimization. I'll let you run with that in any way you see fit.
Sure. So I think we can all kind of bond over hearing phrases like there's not enough time, or I just got this really great RFP in and it's due soon, but I think it's a really good opportunity, and just lots of eagerness, because that's what we're in the business of, right? Is winning more business, growing our companies and our roles in that team and in that life cycle of activities. So when I think about the not enough time, for example, it's really getting down to the heart of how efficiently are we working? Do we have the right people doing the right tasks? Do we have at the right time? Do we have identified the right process steps so we're all working from the same playbook and it's not going rogue with every single RFP? There needs to be that element of repeatable process so each of us can step into our roles, execute on them. We know what the other team players are doing to bring us towards the end, because in this fast-paced environment of RFPs, and I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing response times only get shorter as more tools become available, at both on our end as bidders and on customer end as they're evaluating. We need to be bidding on the right responses and then work efficiently towards that. And so to me, it all comes down to getting the right people in the right roles, doing the right next step, and understanding who's holding which balls. I like to mix my metaphors, I guess, but as we talk about, all of those various stages of development where we have proposals sitting, what balls do we need to keep in the air? What are the glass ones that we can't drop? What are the rubber ones that are, slightly lower priority but still important? How do we get to the end and submit a compliant proposal that can win? And ideally that we're also proud of, right? We want to all do good work.
Really well laid out there, Karin. There's a lot we can chew on. So maybe going down a couple different paths. When you mentioned, the right people doing the right things at the right time, I think I heard you mention, the right pursuit, maybe more than once, the best opportunity to pursue with your limited resources. Are there any common things you've seen, any pet peeves in terms of maybe it's, maybe let me rephrase it a bit. Maybe who should be a part of that vetting process? How are we vetting it? Where do you see an opening for a solution, a software, a CRM to be involved versus we want that old fashioned human touch? Maybe lean in on that front end activity to start, if you could.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to start with the people, because without the people, we wouldn't be able to do much else. So the way our team will come together and where we try to be is make sure that we have not just the business development leaders or account executives, your sales leaders, whatever the title is at your company, those individuals who are identifying the opportunities. As soon as they bring in the opportunity, involving proposal right away, because we need our business development leaders to identify, does this fit with the company's growth priorities? Is this strategically a good opportunity? Lots of factors to consider there. We also need the subject matter experts from the business areas. Can we meet all these qualifications? But the other part of that is, well, there are multiple parts, but I'm going to lean into the proposal side, right? Because it can be very easy to focus in on this fits with our priority, and here we can do all this work. But if that proposal leg isn't part of it, it's missing the how can we get from here to done. And so my team will put together, what is that proposal plan, the schedule, identifying what goes into the proposal. Because just because there's a short RFP or a short statement of work doesn't necessarily correlate to the complexity of a proposal. They might still list off 12 different attachments that need to be completed. And so scoping, what is the effort to do this proposal? What else do we have in flight? What does capacity look like? And so those are, like Kyle, as you're talking about, those key players who need to be involved. In a nutshell, I think that's who we need. I think the challenge is often that human pull, right? Feeling really invested. Oh, I really want to do this. It looks really good. It's hard to make a smart no bid decision, especially when it feels like you're saying no to something that is a good fit in order to say yes to something that is a better fit. It's not good or bad, it's good and better. And so that's where we get into how can we take some of that emotion out of the go no go process. There are tools, I've seen a number of different ones developed and used, from a quick 5 question scoring to give you an assessment, even building that into various tools, whether that's a CRM or another tool. But whatever methodology you use, there needs to be buy-in and sticking to it, and not trying to, oh, well, I'm going to put my thumb on the scale because I want this to score higher. And that's hard. I haven't yet been part of conversations or been part of process development refinement that can completely take that human out, because we need that human element to evaluate what the tools are giving us. So it's give and take. And if anyone has the magic wand to give us the perfect answer, I'd love to hear it. I know that we try, iterate, and continuous process improvement. We refine as needed.
For sure. It's a really good segue, unplanned, as the best ones always are, into our next topic. Let's bring software, let's bring automation, the tools into the process. Jack, really, really good questions. Glad to have you here. Thanks for joining. So Karin, if you don't mind, on that kind of bid, no bid, go, no go, opportunity vetting decision, as we know, there can be some subjectivity to that. The question is kind of what tech can you or do you use to help keep that vetting process as objective as possible? And what can they flag certain data, certain metrics to kind of help with that scoring, that objective scoring? What have you seen work in your travels?
Sure. So honestly, what I've used and seen be the most successful with the types of teams that I'm working with and types of opportunities we're working on is a 5 to 10 question questionnaire. Whether you live in Excel with that and build weighted formulas, or whether you build that into a tool you're using, if your CRM is able to accommodate that, making it quick and easy. And it's getting into things like, we can all talk industry best practice. We know that opportunities where you've had a chance to engage with a customer prior to RFP is going to position you better. We all know those types of things. And so really, I think rather than following, because I've tried it both ways, pulling up examples, that others have shared templates, or pulling something from resources online, that's a great starting point, but really getting your internal leaders on board with, but what's important to us? Is it important to us that we're bidding on opportunities within the state that we're located in? Is that one of the top priorities? Are we prioritizing, a certain federal agency over another because we know this, that, or the other thing? Are we looking for opportunities that are being awarded quickly with revenue coming in potentially quicker? Are we looking for a certain sweet spot of dollar size of the deal? All of those things are valid, but your company will weight them differently than mine does. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, it's getting together with your business development sales leaders, with the individuals who are responsible for owning strategy, if those people are different, bringing your subject matter experts to the table. They need to be at the table to say, yes, we can do this work. No, we can't. But then also, please don't forget about our friends in the proposal area, so we can also help put together the plan to get to done.
For sure. I would just add to that, just on the visible thread front, there's a ton of options out there. I'm not saying visible thread's the only one, but where I've seen visible thread users incorporate this helping to score, vet, all that good stuff, using VT docs, doing some alignment analysis.
Mhm.
Here's one or more opportunities, RFPs, SOWs, PWSs that I'm thinking of pursuing, and I want to line them up against past contracts, SOWs, PWSs, and you're just looking for, you generally kind of know where there's going to be some alignment. But when you can see true, yes, this is speaking to this capability 12 times, and we've delivered it for years, that's going to go higher in your kind of vetting funnel than something that's a bit more greenfield. They're asking for different capabilities. So, kind of that alignment and gap analysis against opportunities and kind of your past content, contracts, etc. Great place to start. Even something as simple as, for those who are familiar with search dictionaries, I have a user that she just has a search dictionary looking for performance bonds, and she's looking for specific values where basically if it's $10 million and above, they don't bid it, essentially. So whatever those scorecard questions are, there's ways you can kind of structure a dictionary or that alignment analysis to help flag that. We still review, we still consider it, but now we have true data. This is what the
Mm-hmm.
customer is saying. So something to think about and chew on that I've seen in my travels. Really, really good. Thanks for the question, Jack. There's a secondary one that I want to just table for right now, but I'll return to it, I promise. So, Karin, let's talk about, in addition to kind of no go, bid, no bid, opportunity assessment, do you have any, and I like a good story, both good and bad. Do you have, favorite use cases that you've seen automation really transform a specific part of the process? Um, Anything like that? Favorite story of value automation? Regale us
Yes,
with a good one.
yes, I do. And Kyle, it piggybacks right off to one of the things you were talking about in using VT docs to do an analysis. And you mentioned gap analysis. One of our steps as part of both evaluating an opportunity, but also positioning for solutioning, we will shred that statement of work in order to identify and do our solution review, our capabilities review, which turns into gap analysis, which turns into solution blueprint. And when I first joined my current company and I was working with the team and I saw how a team member was doing that, which was manually. And so copying and pasting from the Word or PDF document into Excel so we can have it all in Excel, manipulate, add your columns. That probably sounds familiar to many of us. I do it with proposal requirements too. But I knew that the company had licenses to VT docs, that there were a visible thread customer, and I had used it at a previous company. And so I got my hands on licenses and I said, here, look at this. And in real time, I walked through those steps of uploading the document and then generating a starter compliance matrix using VT docs. And in literal seconds, we have an output, and that can be, CSV file, so pull it into Excel. Here we go. Now it still needs that human touch to manipulate it. What columns do I want to add, and things like that. But what was taking them almost a week, depending on how many requirements, how lengthy that SOW was, could now have a working document and ready to have those meetings with the SMEs and solution architects in hours. And that includes the manual tailoring of that starter compliance matrix. And I'll never forget, we were on video, sharing screens, what have you, and her jaw literally dropped, going, it's been taking days. And so thinking about there, we still need that human touch. Love the automation. Let's let the robots do what the robots can do, but then bring in the humans and maximize our time. So we can be efficient together and spend the precious time, because going back to what's that phrase we all hear, there's not enough time. How do we get it done? We can't just create more hours in the day. Let's use our tools effectively. And now that is just a standard part of what we do with every single RFP that comes in the door. And that has shaved hours upon hours off and letting us focus elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's important, Karin, and I'm in no way minimizing those awesome time savings. That's important. But maybe just elaborate a bit further,
Yeah.
beyond those raw time savings, what are you allowed to do differently earlier with more emphasis and less exhaustion? Just keep going down that path.
Of course. So, one of the intangible benefits that I see is we can maintain momentum, right? There's a certain energy and excitement that comes with identifying new opportunity, new RFP, and folks, I've heard variations of let's start writing. And as a proposal manager, I'm going, not yet. We need to do some planning first. But we can get to that next step that our internal partners feel like is productive work faster rather than feeling to them like we're just sitting around and not getting started when there is a lot of important work being done. But in it's so much faster to use, and again, kind of not to overemphasize the time savings, but when we can use that tool to get us to this next step, we can capitalize on that momentum, that energy, get things on calendars, and that results in more time to write. That results in more time to review and fine tune to make sure that if there's a question and answer period, we don't miss that opportunity to answer questions because we've identified early enough, maybe there's something off here about this requirement. Is there an opportunity to gain in another way, ask clarification that is needed to build the best response and the best pricing? But we're able to get deeper faster. So in the end, getting to ask questions on time, being able to form the plan, the solution, gets pricing going so we can start writing about our solution in parallel. It just keeps everything moving rather than feeling like we've wasted a week. When we're not wasting, but perception controls reality.
For sure. I like the concept and the word momentum because in my travels, it, and this might not be true for everyone, but I feel like when you're under the gun, a proposal submission can kind of feel like you're struggling to the finish line. It's like, oh my gosh, we just have to get it out. I haven't done maybe all my readability analysis. I haven't maybe necessarily checked for acronyms. We know it's compliant. We got to get it out the door. And so that extra time allows that more thoughtful review, refinement, best foot forward. And actually the Q&A example is a great one. Hard to formulate good questions if you don't fully yet have a firm grasp on the specifics of what you're being asked. Really, really good one with competitive impact there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe final thought there before we pivot just slightly is for those in the room that are in the market currently for any kind of software or any kind of resource spend, if you haven't thought about it already, time savings are key. Lead with those. Time is money, time is cost. But when you're building out that business case, in my experience, it makes it even more powerful to say, with these time savings, this is
Mm-hmm.
actually what we're able to do better. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when, budget holders and leadership's eyes really start to light up then.
Yeah.
Something to think about. So really well said.
That's a good point. It's not only about more, it's about better, right? Which increases the quality, it increases hopefully probability of win, just being able to focus in the right places.
So, and let's now dig even deeper into that focus in the right places, Karin. And we're both proud writers and liberal arts majors, so this is near and dear to my heart. Um, we have more time now, at least a week. We're writing, we're refining, we feel like we have a good plan, we're maintaining momentum. Maybe walk the group through how you're currently refining and measuring that proposal quality. How do we know we're on track? We're hitting the things we want to hit. It's well written. What are you doing to kind of measure that, flag things to be reworked, kind of run with that football?
Sure. Well, I'll say that when everything is going as expected, ideal state, we are really digging into how, of course, all the standard things. Are we meeting the requirements? Are we using the customer's evaluation criteria, scoring it as if we were them, all of that. But let's dig into what we're actually saying. Best practice develop some proposal win themes, right? That match what your customer's looking for, that addresses your customers' hot buttons. What do they need? What are they buying? What are they telling us they want, both what's said and unsaid? We're developing a set of win themes. This is what's going to, our proposal is going to coalesce around that messaging. And I've seen that done a number of different ways. We'll often write a general win theme. Maybe that is like a one sentence statement. But then in order to help get our writers, subject matter experts, reviewers, kind of all coalesced again around that same message, we might write out, but this is what it means. And that's more of an internal type of document. Well, we've turned those win themes and that additional explanation and created custom dictionaries. And then as part of our review process, so maybe that's at red team review when we expect that content to be 80 to 90% done, but really there, we're no longer in rough draft outline. So we have the content pretty much written. Let's run our response against those custom dictionaries, that one that we built to match win themes for this proposal. What words and phrases are we hitting against, and what aren't we? Did we do in the proposal what we said we were going to do? And that becomes a really objective way to look at how is our proposal coming across? Because, calling back to the writing, as a writer, anyone who does writing creates art of any way, any creative expression. It's intensely personal, right? Like we get attached to the words. It's a real effort to get yourself in the headspace and ready to receive feedback. We're working for the good of the proposal, the good of the company. It's not someone called my baby ugly, right? It's what are we doing together? So being able to use a tool like that custom dictionary that is using our words back with us creates that objective profile. And with the output, you can go, okay, now what do I want to do with this? Because sometimes that might be just a well-placed sentence here and there brings it all together, right? It's not necessarily rewriting it all, but it's where are we threading those themes or not? And if, say there's a whole, I've finished the thought. I've seen an example where, I can think of a proposal where we identified a win theme that we thought was great, but turns out it was really hard to write to, and it was maybe more serving us as the bidder than the customer. So maybe we need to de-emphasize that. Maybe that needs to come out of the overall summary win themes graphic if that's not actually helping to sell our proposal. So I've seen it go both ways in what we do with that output, both rewriting, editing to strengthen where those win themes show up, or help us reconsider, is this actually a theme that is helping us? Maybe, maybe not. But we can objectively look at that output in an area that's so personal.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And that idea of being able to quickly search across multiple volumes at once in one fell swoop. And then what I want the group to think about, and I can send some links in the chat too, if you're hearing some of these concepts like a dictionary, things like that, I'll point you in the right direction. I like, and I've seen people do this successfully, bringing these outputs to those color team reviews. You bring the draft, obviously, but you can bring Excel snapshots. I've seen people bring visible thread up and share their screen during a color team review, and we can say, here, we're hammering win theme A, B, and C, and we can show you exactly where and how. To your point, if we see some win themes that are being, I'll say, not really used as frequently, either we know to plug the gap, or we can reassess. Do we actually want to go down this route? But you can do so objectively with collateral you can bring to those sessions, which I'm a big fan of. So it's a great example. Karin, I think time flies, you're having fun. This is what I think I want to pivot to next. And as a people leader, I think this is good to get your perspective on it. So, we have these processes we want to improve, reduce manual effort, drive more positive outcomes, all that good stuff. We do that via the use of technology and process, all that good stuff. But as we know, new processes, new solutions it can be challenging to adopt those consistently. You used the word earlier, repeatably, in terms of repeatable process. Do you have any advice, best practices for the group to chew on? How can we drive adoption? There'll always be some natural hesitance, I'll
Hmm.
say. How do you attack that challenge? Because we know it's going to help, but we need to kind of bridge the gap between new process, new tool, need you to use it.
For sure. So we've all had experiences, I'm sure, where we're told, here's a new thing that the company bought, go use it. Well, I didn't want that. How is that helping me? Resistance. I mean, it's another thing to add. So we really need to get the buy-in of the people who are using the tool, who we want to use it. And so one of the things that I like to do, and this is both um, in digging in and using a tool, but that can always feel like it's not as important as I'm on deadline and I need to get this other thing done. We all have priorities that change by the week, by the day. So we need to be intentional about building in time. Easier said than done, right? So, as with my team, I ask them to intentionally spend certain hours per month on professional development. Right now, I'm asking them to set aside 5 hours a month. Now, that doesn't necessarily sound like a lot, right? That's 1.25 hours a week. But when things are busy, and things are always busy, it can be hard to sneak anything in. And I think that professional development is so important both for us as people and in finding satisfaction, in feeding curiosity, getting excited. And so when I ask folks to set aside time for professional development, I leave it wide open. Hey, there are lots of tools that we have that offer free webinars. What are you excited about? Spend some time on a webinar. Set aside some time to go use the tool. Okay, I'm going to upload a document to VT Docs. I haven't spent time developing this extract in a while. I want to sharpen my skills to do document compares more quickly. I want to look at, just set aside an hour to do that and keep that date with yourself. I have a hard time doing that on my calendar, but sometimes I feel like if someone gives me permission, then I don't feel like, if I attend this webinar, maybe my boss doesn't think that's a good use of time. And so, as a people leader, starting from the position of this is a good use of time, I expect you to set aside time for professional development. Chase what is interesting to you. And if you need ideas where to dig in, what to research or read, or webinars to attend, let's brainstorm together about what is going on in your role today. How can that help you out? And so, both setting aside some expectation, but leaving lots of room for choice and saying, this is a good use of time. And so, with that, okay, then gentle nudges towards, or more direct nudges. I want everyone to spend an hour this week using this tool, playing around. But really, it's getting your hands in and seeing for yourself how this can help me. How this can help me. Because if there's only one evangelist of using a tool or a process, it's just not going to get the traction. So bring people along with you. Spend the time. It's worth learning more so that we can do better, do differently. Think about, it's not that our processes were bad, but how can we do what's available to us to work better? What can help us out? What can free up an hour in the day? So it's setting aside the time and being intentional. So there are multiple champions bringing these technologies and solutions and ideas to the table.
Yeah, there's a couple of points I want to emphasize there, Karin. Really well said. For those who don't know, my team at Visible Thread is there training new users. We help you drive that adoption and get the most out of the solution you can. Most software vendors have some kind of equivalent team. Um, so a couple things that I've seen that help. Um, when Karin mentions more than one evangelist and champion, so important. You want leadership visibility, and we think this is important. But if you have multiple teams large teams, multiple functional groups, identifying one or two power users or champions at that mid, I'd say, level, really, really important. If you have somebody on your team that just loves kind of experimenting, kicking the tires, that kind of personality is a great person to lean on to learn and then kind of help spread awareness in conjunction with a customer success team as well. There's only so much we can do though. Um, I would also say, when you mentioned, how can this help me? And I'm going to put myself in the shoes of a business that's brought on technology to solve a problem. I think the communication up front and early on is really important. Is generally there's a distinction between what is fundamentally a new process or a new flow that we haven't done before versus this is just improving what we're already doing. I'll give you an example. We have an acronym extractor. You can throw a proposal draft in there and we'll find every single undefined, conflicting definition of all your acronyms. And in certain situations, we might not see early adoption of that. And it's just in that environment, they look for acronyms as a part of their proposal review process. They do it today. So even though using VT to do it is different than what they were doing, the actual output that you're looking to achieve, there's no change. And so I think it's really connecting the product, the tool, to the current task can help flatten that learning curve, as opposed to this is totally brand new to me. This is big, this is different, this is alien. And so just something as simple as framing it that way makes a big difference. It's not brand new.
Mm-hmm. It's not brand new. It's not more. It's we're doing this anyway. What's another way that we can look at it together?
Correct. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had one other thing to say, but in my passion, I think I lost it. But that's key. Main points of contact, multiple champions, tie it to process. We're already doing this today. And then, setting aside time to learn. And then, this is a selfish plug for me and my team, lean on your vendors.
Yeah.
They should have plans in place to help you drive adoption, to help kind of flatten that learning curve. Lean on your customer success teams, and good customer success teams should be excited to get on the phone and help those users. There's a time and a place for self-serve, but you don't want to end up with too much self-serve. So anyways, something to think about if you have software right now or if you're in the market for it. Cool. Let's do this, Karin. We're coming up on time. Let me refresh the questions here and make sure we get to some of those as well. I always have more, but the audience, of course, they get right of first refusal. You know what, Jack? I think I'm going to return to the second part of your question. It's a good one, and I'm going to broaden it a little bit, if I could be so bold. So this was asked during that initial opportunity vetting and assessment part of the conversation, but basically, how do you assess whether the tool that you brought in or process that you brought in to improve an opportunity assessment, or really any other process, how do you know if it's working, Karin? How do you measure success? Is it working?
That's a great question. I don't, I think that every team is so different. And even within like this company, working with different leaders, bringing on new lines of business, it's been different. So I don't know that I have like one golden ticket other than how are people feeling? Like that may feel like it's really wishy-washy. You want something that's harder data, but is everyone going home at the end of the night feeling on the edge of burnout? Are we saying yes and no to enough opportunities? Tracking time, where are we spending it? Generally, how are people feeling? So I always say that I rarely live in a black and white area. I live in a gray world. And what's true for one line of business, even at my company, is going to be different for another. So, Jack, I'm sure that is not nearly the specificity that you're looking for, but I feel like that's where I sit sometimes. So I'd love to hear Kyle's thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I'll lean in on how are people feeling with a specific story that I actually think is pretty cool, and then I have maybe one or two other thoughts as I generally do. So when we're working with generally first year user groups, the company brought it on, we're within the first 12 months. We will look at some quantitative metrics, more on that in a moment. But we will also issue surveys to our users. And so we'll say, and it's all qualitative, rate your satisfaction with the software. Has it helped you save time? How much? So we'll actually survey our user group. There are awesome free online tools you can use to send that out. Great place to kind of measure sentiment. And then, yes, Jack, you read my mind. Looking at PWin. January 1, 2024, our PWin was X. January 1, 2025, has that shifted one way or the
Right.
other? That's a clear metric you can use. Volume, yep. We had another user group, Jack. You're invited next time, Jack. We had a user group where they just quantified over the past 12 months, we bid on, $500 million worth of potential revenue up for grabs. Your mileage may vary. And they said, we didn't lose one bid to non-compliance. Killer metric.
Yeah.
So, success has many parents, but there's an undeniable connection there. So think about that way too. Use those evaluations, win or lose, even if you lost a bid, is there some goodness there that has improved? So
Mhm.
and then, yeah, that's a cool story that I came across in the past kind of 6 months. Dollar value, no compliance misses.
I like that. And also, as we're talking about number of proposals submitted, I like to look at the whole funnel. How many leads did we open? How many leads did we qualify as opportunities? We have multiple phases, multiple gate reviews. So when we look at how many leads in to how many proposals submitted, at what stage did we close an opportunity and why did we close it? So because
Interesting.
we should look at a true funnel. You have a lot of opportunities, and as you're qualifying them, we should be submitting fewer than we assess, and then that is ideally um, a measure of selecting the right opportunities to bid on. And we might get through one of the ways that I've often talked about mitigating risk, proposal risk, bidding risk, is we're going to keep developing the opportunity with the yes, it aligns with strategy, keep going. Submit questions. Yep, questions came back, no showstoppers, keep going. Working on pricing, we hit a roadblock and we can't pass it. Maybe it's pricing, maybe it's a solution element or what have you. Well, then we need to no bid it, not open ourselves up to risk, right? And so being able to no bid at any point we receive the information that suggests this is no longer a viable bid, we should close it. So that's by looking at, I think, not just the proposals submitted, but the funnel. How many in, and then how many RFPs in, how many proposals out. And that can show also the effectiveness. Are you making good bid, no bid decisions along the way?
Yeah, really good. And that's why I like this conversation. There's kind of front end
Mm,
metrics, there's back end
totally.
metrics. Maybe one other source of success stories you can mine. It's another customer story of mine. It's actually one of my favorites. This is more of a VT writer customer, and that's our kind of language complexity measuring and improvement product. Long story short, this organization had been receiving feedback from their evaluators on their tech volumes. Their words, not mine. Apparently, the tech volumes were quote unquote almost unreadable. And that's a little
Ooh.
damning. Now, a year later, are you receiving similar feedback? So use those evaluators' notes and feedback as well. There could be some really good nuggets in there, or even going right back out to them and saying, "Hey, in the past you found our technical volumes to be a bit of a slog. When has a tech volume ever been a slog? Um, has it gotten better over time?" So there's a lot of different kind of threads you can pull on. Maybe one other thought I have on this topic, once again pointed towards if there's anyone here on the line who is a user of software, who's a buyer of software, once again, beyond ROI, time savings, all that good stuff. Yeah, I've seen really interesting career trajectories based on people's adoption of software. It's a little bit of how I kind of came to be
Mm,
here is carve out. If you can take a piece of software and you can use it to optimize a process, create a new one, it's actually just a really good kind of resume data point. So think about that as well in terms of software optimized processes. There's value there for you personally in adopting it. So just something to think about, that I think there's value there as well. And I mean, Karin, I don't, as a people leader, does that speak to you at all?
it absolutely does. And Kyle, I'm thinking of, we're looking at CRM implementation right now, new software. And I've heard from more than one person that I'm working with, oh, I want to have this on my resume. Right. Like, and I think that as a people leader, I want to see my team growing, building their resumes. It to me, it's not, ooh, I want to keep them in the same position. I don't want to lose them, but rather, how can I encourage you and be your biggest cheerleader to build your skill set, to set yourself up for whatever you want your next step to be? Maybe, hopefully, that's internally. Hopefully, we can grow together. But truly, like carving out that niche for yourself. I think we all have stories of after we've been in this a little bit, where did we start? Where are we now? 10 years ago, I didn't think I'd be leading a team called sales enablement. And yet, it's learning the people, it's learning the processes and the tools, and how can we leverage that elsewhere. And just, we all want to help our companies do well. That's why we're in this work of winning business and growing, and growth means mission, right? When you have margin, you have mission. So let's do good things together.
Yeah, really well said. I think we have come to the end of time, which is always a good sign. I always like to go over, not drastically so. So really appreciate the thoughts there, Karin. And then to the audience, last chance to get those questions in. Just as you do that, really hope you found today's session valuable. It's a broad topic on purpose. There's a lot of different ways we can go, but I enjoyed kind of the people, the process, the solution, the tool aspect of it. So it's always fun swapping war stories, Karin. So thank you so
Indeed.
much for your time and insights. Really appreciate the group's time. I know you're busy people. We're getting to the end of the day on a Thursday. Thank you for your questions. Do attend more. We believe we have more. I have another webinar. My marketing team owes me a beverage or two tomorrow. I think there's maybe this, I think this is today's last session. But tomorrow we have more free content for those who can make it. So thank you again and have a good rest of your day.